Thank you so much both for being here. It's nice to see the project in this wonderful space, in this wonderful way. Careful, don't go too far back. There's a gap. Yeah. It's what brings an architect and a philosopher together, and what makes the collaboration pertinent between books and sketches and buildings. Frida.
Well, as many things in the art world, what brought us together probably was what? The what? I'm sorry. Philippe, yes, yes. So it's connection with people, no, like a constellation of people that surrounds us, and I think, at least for me, that's how I saw the project. Like it was a connection of similar things that were a cloud, no, like and slowly transforming, not in, like from mushrooms into rabbits, but from something that was formless and then slowly began to take shape into a specific structure. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, books was what I deal with all the time, and they are immaterial things, fundamentally. They're very material as when you publish them, but the way they relate with space, it's always forgotten by me. So relating with architecture was a revelation. Sorry, I have a terrible cough today, so. And Philippe was the connection that really kind of saw the unity between the immateriality of the book, the materiality of the architecture, and trying to get the two together was also an experiment in trying to create a physical version of a mental space, which is something similar to a revolution, if you wish, which is an attempt to enact physically an abstract mental idea. It was a challenge also because the material, I mean, you can talk about this, of course, at length, but it is a complex structure that we managed to create.
Why is the structure complex? Where is the complexity of the structure? How do you resolve this complexity into the manifestation that we have now, which is an enclosure, but also a protective space at the same time, and a space that people enter and exit in a form of a rotation somehow, but also they enter and exit through seasons, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. Well, the initial idea was to create a garden, no, within a landscape. So the landscape is a museum, and you have to provide for a specific environment within that environment. So it's almost like nesting dolls. And in order to be able to immerse yourself in the world of books, of course, you have to have a palate cleanser, so to speak. So the idea, and you can speak more about the division of how you were conceiving this library, but it's like having 4 points of entry that would converge into a center. So it's like centripetal forces, but also as you're moving out, you're pushed into a different direction that might disorient you, but you're also disoriented because of what you've seen inside. So you're transformed in that process, and by the way you exit, you also see the landscape that was surrounding you in a different way. And the simplicity of the structure is also its complexity. No, it's a temporary structure. I believe that all architecture is temporary, but this is like one of the most extreme versions of temporality. So it's just bamboo and paper, which is also the medium of the book. And the idea is for it to express also the fabrication, the manufacture, the labor that goes on the process of construction.
But also, if I may, as Arturo Campagna very, very beautifully described to me, it is a space that in Pantelleria, in the Italian island, is used to protect lemon trees. Yes. So, say a few things about that.
Pantelleria is a small island in the south of Italy. When you are there, your phone is connected with the network of Tunisia, not of Italy.
Oh, wow.
And it's where my uncle lives, and it's a beautiful place. It's similar maybe to the more famous Aeolian Islands because it's volcanic, but differently from them, it's an island with a lot of wind. According to some, the island of Calypso, the nymph that kept for years Odysseus, most of the Odyssey actually spent there, it was Pantelleria. So because it's so windy, all the trees look like spiders. They crawl on the floor. If you want to grow a fruit tree, you have to protect it. And so they build towers, which are exactly 7 meters wide and 5 meters tall, slightly slanted. They have only one door, but I'll explain why there are 4 in this one. But they're made of volcanic rocks, which are taken from underneath or next to the tower, 0 kilometer. And inside there is one plant only. It's a citrus plant. You know, citrus is a bit like a conceptual idea of a potentiality. It's neutral in itself, but if you graft it in a particular way, it grows certain fruits. So you can graft that plant, they do, in 4 ways. You have the same tree produces tangerines, oranges, lemons, pomegranate, grapefruit, and so on. Now, that's very similar in my mind to how the imagination works. Wow. The imagination is this ability to create worlds that is very fragile. Everything contradicts it. Even just the absurdity of being alive, the absurdity of not knowing what came before our birth, the absurdity of suffering. Everything contradicts the fruits of our imagination. And language and literature and philosophy are the walls that we create to protect it, to protect the worlds that we imagine to survive the nonsense of reality. And that's why it's a garden with an invisible tree in the middle, and this tree produces 4 fruits. They are the 4 seasons. I don't know if you want to talk about it now, maybe later.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so one way of looking at why seasons, you know, in Mediterranean symbolism, there is always the number 4 returning. Also in China, but very much in Mediterranean symbolism, there's the 4 seasons, the 4 humors, the 4 elements, the square as a symbol of earth. So it's a typical symbol to signify totality. You have 3 that signifies the transcendent totality. You have 4 that signifies the immanent physical totality. Usually it's described as a circle divided in 4 quadrants, which is, by the way, the architectural plan of the city of Baghdad when it was built by Al-Mansur. It was a copy of the Garden of Eden with the 4 rivers. So everything is 4 when it signifies the totality of the world. The 4 seasons are 4 modalities of world building, 4 ways in which humans face the incredible, ineffable, overwhelming mystery of being alive and not knowing what existence is. We face it in different ways. The summer mode is the way in which we try to obscure the fact that we don't know anything, and we invent theories to the extent that we believe them. Theories that are very precise, very clear, all-comprehensive, that give you rules and techniques to manipulate the chaos of reality. Autumn is the season in which you start, doubting our ability to grasp the infinite chaos. You rebel, you feel anxiety. In winter, which is the white of the 4, they have colors as well. In winter, you give up. You accept that we have a very limited biological machine here that can do nothing against the infinity of reality. Any notion that we might have, whether space or time, means nothing. That's the season of mysticism, but also is the season of radical pessimism, depending on how you react to this revelation. And then spring, the red one, is the season when you realize that, fundamentally, everything that we can ever concoct in our little minds with our little language says nothing about reality, but we need stories to live, because we are humans, or at least we are living machines, living organisms. We need to create narratives. And they are fictions, but we need them, okay? But we need them as fictions. Now, the risk is when you forget that they are fictions, you go back into the summer, okay? So you go back to believing that they're true.
It's like a game of ladders and snakes somehow. Frida, do buildings have seasons?
That's a great question. And I would like to think that they're actually always in spring. Sometimes we forget and they move into summer. And that's when they become dangerous as everything. But hopefully they never go into winter. Yeah.
I wonder what it would look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of the demons of the title, where are the demons in the library space and where are the demons in the books? Inside or outside? Library first.
I think if we're considering that the demon is not like a radical summer idea, no, like it's something that could be reinterpreted as something even positive, no, like that creates the seeds for something else, then I would think it's in the structure itself, no, it's something that you conceive as a physical space, but actually is the relationship between inside and outside, between having the possibility of interacting with someone or not, that becomes the demon, no? Like whether you want to recognize it or not. So I would say that it's the temporality and the idea of physical space in itself. It's just a matter of relationships. So if you understand that, then the demon kind of dissolves and moves into something else.
Yeah.
Well, there's many different types of demons. Demonology is a very wide subject and field of studies, especially in the Middle Ages, but maybe still today. The two modalities of demons are the ones that possess you. Okay, so the ones that kind of like enter your eyes and flip, the way in which you look at reality. They change your glasses. That's, for example, the demon that possessed Socrates. They told him what to say, what to do. In that case, in the library, those are the books, or at least the authors of the books, or at least the words of the books, that have that ability to switch your glasses. But in fact, the ones that, the demons that make things alive, those are the readers. In a sense, the people walking through the library and activating the books, which I invite every visitor to pick up and read. Absolutely. I mean, they're not a sculpture, it's a library. And if books become objects, it's really bad news. So I think I invite you to use them if you have time. So they are the demons, in a sense, the energetic force that makes the whole place, the whole machine of the library work.
How can the books be used? You want to say a few things about how it works for the visitor on an everyday basis in the space of the exhibition. Obviously, everybody knows how the books are being used.
Daniel Pennac famously wrote the list of the rights of the reader, which includes not reading the book, reading it from the last page, like stopping halfway. And that's sacrosanct, and I completely agree. The books, well, you can use them however you want. I think the best way to understand, especially a theory book, is to understand them similarly to a very immersive video game. They're a sandbox. You try out. You put them on. You believe them. Like you have to a certain extent, the experiment is that you believe the author for the duration of the book, like you read a novel. And then you see how you feel. You look around, like when you come out from a cinema, still in the film, and you see how the world is reconstructed. So that's a good way, I think, of practically using, especially philosophy. This library in particular, I think the best way for me is once you understand the concept of the seasons, which is like a game, of course, which I have suggested, you consider that I have ordered, together with a group of 7 collaborators that have helped me selecting the books. Rainbow is here, is one of them, but there's 6 more that are scattered between Los Angeles and Italy and London. So the way in which we selected the books and assigned them to the different seasons is individual. Talking with people these days, some of them told me, like, this book belongs there, not here. Mm-hmm. And this is great. So, like, I would love, if I had the possibility of doing an experiment of piling them up in the middle and asking people with the brief to reassign them. Yeah, and see what combinations
that would be great.
Would happen.
Yes. Does knowledge belong to us, Frida? The knowledge of a library or the knowledge that the library can generate? Just because the whole question of belonging came up a few times.
I mean, just listening to what Adam said a few minutes ago, I think there's this idea of personal knowledge and collective knowledge. And sometimes we think that ideas belong to us, but it's just because we have been absorbing them for so long that it resonates with us. So actually, like, there's no possession of it. Yeah. We're just aligning like planets, at specific moments, and that's where the feeling that we are sharing some ideas occur. So.
Federico?
Yeah, no, I agree that ideas don't belong to anyone. That's why the very notion of stealing an idea doesn't quite make sense, because they cannot, thank God, being the property of anyone, they can be the commonwealth of all. I think this is a very liberatory way of also understanding what kind of ideas a person can approach, all of them, fundamentally. Whoever you are, what defines you as your identity, and so on and so forth, don't limit the range of what you can study, what you can experiment. Of course, ideas, like plants, like people, require certain, like animals, require a certain etiquette on how you approach them. If you approach them in a brutal way, that's not the right way of using an idea. But everybody's entitled to flirt and dance with all of them, absolutely. There's no property there.
And thank you. One more question. What is the most unique in from your perspective, book in the selection of books which is there? For both of you, the question. I'm sure you have looked at the books in which one is the most specific, particular, useful, interesting, crazy, insane, demonic, whatever?
So many, but I think there's two books in the winter that are unique. One is by Rabia and one is by Hallaj. Both Rabia and Hallaj were early Sufi mystics. Rabia was a woman, Hallaj was a man. At the beginning of Sufism, the mystical strand of Islam. And Rabia was the first to really invent a poetic style of mysticism for an entire tradition that went on from then on. So like in terms of history of poetry, she's really a guiding light. And she was, there are no saints in Islam, but if there were, she would be a saint. Hallaj is the most destructive heretic of all. He used to go around saying, I am God, and saying like, you don't need to go to Mecca because Mecca is here. He ended up executed. But his point was clear, that if there is such a thing as reality, which is beyond our understanding, it's everywhere. There are no limitations.
Absolutely. Frida?
I don't have one, I have to say, but just reading the list was a wonderful gift because it becomes a seed. You have to explore all of them and actually understand the relationships between all of them. So I love that idea of just people reconfiguring that list forever and just how it become a thing on its own demon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you, and congratulations on the...